Hello and good evening. Not sure if anyone is here yet, but we are 3 minutes late. We're always late these days. This is rather like British Rail in the worst days, isn't it? Very sorry. 3 minutes late, not very good. But running around trying to fix things and move things around, I just thought I would do this from this garden, even though the seagulls are rather noisy. There's one of you coming in. Can you hear me loud and clear? Anne of Cleavers. Hello, Anne of Cleavers. Yes. Keeley, also, good evening to you. It does still say one, so I don't know how this rotor works. And there we are. So you're going to get a bit of seagull noise in the background. You won't get the mini Thatcher unless it decides to come back because it's run off yet again. It's run off 4 or 5 times today. It's a complete nightmare, this bird. It is a bit like Margaret Thatcher. It's a free spirit. It does what it wants. It's like the free market economics. So it doesn't have it doesn't like to be hemmed in. It's certainly not into communism, that bird. But there we are. So can you hear me? Yes, nice and bright. It is bright, but I don't need the sunglasses. So there we go. So you like the garden ambience. I'm sure you can hear the noisy birds. Hopefully they will clear off and go and have their fight somewhere else. But they seem to be having their evening fight. They seem to have morning fights and evening fights. They don't fight in the middle of the day. I don't know where they go in the middle of the day, but there we go. There's 29 of you already here. And yes, can you hear me? That's what I need to know. Can you hear me? Am I loud and clear, or am I? I wish I could have subtitles. I don't know how we do that. I need to fix that somehow. If there's a way of doing subtitles, it could be useful in these occasions, couldn't it? When it all goes wrong. So there we go. I'm loud and clear, says Anne of Cleavers. Well, Anne of Cleavers, you are a good supporter, and I love you joining in our quiz. So yes. Today has been a quiet day of writing quizzes. I've written many more because you took 2 of them away from me yesterday. I had to write some more because, at one stage I had 10 in abeyance, but I've only got now, let me see, I've written half of one, well, more than half of one. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 completed and 1 half finished. So you can have 2 quizzes tonight if you behave yourselves. So there we go. There's 36 of you here. Have any of you any questions before we go on to any topics? We'll talk about the sloths in a little while and how that's going. And it seems to be going very well. You've all been sharing and spreading it. So, that will be good. And we're going to talk about David Beckham's knighthood, which... that's a very controversial thing. Call me Lady Beckham. That's what she's going to be doing. She'll be just like Lady Dorset Emanuel, Carol Bamford, won't she? But in reverse. And Lady Tina Green. So there we go. But we'll come to that shortly. Right. Right. Yes, when you click on the thumb, it's not showing. I've pressed it. I don't know what the thumb. I don't know what that means. I'll try clicking the thumb. I can't click the thumb. I'm not allowed to, obviously. You can't like yourself, but you can do that on Facebook. But you like your own posts. But this is not a pint of gin. It's a pint of Pellegrino. I have been kindly offered a glass of wine, which I've had. I heard a small amount. I've been on the water all day, so I'm having a small amount of white wine, and then I have been out to see. I didn't go to see anybody specifically, but I ended up meeting some people who I had not seen in a while. So it was very nice to see them unexpectedly, and I had quite a chat with another nice Englishman. So there we go. But I went for a walk, and I cleared my head, and I thought about poor old Martin Ellis-Jones and what happened, and it's very, very sad, and I'm very sad about that still, and I've been very, very sad about it all day. But I've sat outside and I've written a quiz, and I had a chicken sandwich, and I went for a walk. So a lot of these people I know have died recently, and a lot of them are ill now. The mini Thatcher is back, but I don't know what it's doing. It's completely mad, this bird. It comes back when it wants food. It's been given the food twice already today, maybe 3 times, and then it tries to escape, and then it tries to come back. So, and then it tries to go in the house, and then it goes in the road. So I don't know where it goes to or how it gets back, but it's like a homing pigeon. It certainly likes coming back, but then it likes running away. So it does have the spirit of Margaret Thatcher, this bird, but it's certainly not got the most sensible behavioral instincts, because it keeps going near the German lady's house, and the German lady wants to kick it in the sea. So it will not live if it goes anywhere near. And there's already the wing of another dead seagull, a baby fledgling seagull, in the street. So another of them has obviously been eaten by a fox, or the dreaded cat. The dreaded cat is a menace to the neighborhood. It's a horrible creature, and it's very vicious. It likes attacking plants, and it seems to like attacking the seagulls. So I think it killed the other bird, because there's a wing of a dead bird in the street. I don't know what it did with the rest of the bird. It probably dragged it away and did something to it. But anyway, I don't like nasty nature, but I like lovely nature. But nature is a terrible thing. The bigger the species, the table's rocking. We weren't having an earthquake. I didn't mean to do that. I hit the table leg. It's obviously not a strong and stable table. It's not Theresa May type table. It seems to rock if you touch it. So I won't touch the table leg again, because otherwise we might have a problem with the microphone or something like that. So yes. Seagull life insurance is quite pricey in your area. Yes, Germans kick them in the sea, and cats tend to eat them or destroy them, or somehow. I think the seagull, surely its beak should have been able to. Well, it's only a fledgling, so I suppose the poor bird didn't know what to do. Because this silly little bird certainly doesn't know what to do. It wanders around and it doesn't really have a clue where it's going. It seems to like having water. It's not getting any more milk, don't worry, but milk is actually no problem. I've looked into this. There is no problem with giving a bird milk. It needs some of the goodness that comes from it. But they'll eat anything, but they don't seem to eat vegetables, and they don't like fruit. So that's a bit of a waste of time. But they might like a mashed up banana. I don't know whether that might work or something like that. But they do like the dog food, and that's what's the best thing to give them. But it's having the chicken soup for the moment, because there's got lots of vegetables. Well, not that they eat the vegetables, but it's got the chicken carcass that was boiled down and made a very nice meal. But I've reserved it for the mini Thatcher. So there you go. Seagulls love gin, says SS Rating. Well, I'm not going to waste the gin on them. I haven't got any gin in the house, to be honest, and that's something that's not good. But I'm kind to be looking after the birds, says Jules B. Well, I don't think you should ever abuse any animal, and seagulls are actually protected species in France. I've looked that up, as much as they are in Britain. So you can't go around doing what these people want to do to it here. So they should leave it alone. So that wasn't very nice, but there we are. And if you throw it in the water, it will die, because it can't get out, because the height of the docks here, it would never find a way out unless it went to the end. But it's not that bright in that sense. It seems to wander in and out and just wander around. But at least it has the good sense not to go in the water. So there we are. Anyway, there's 71 of you here, so there's plenty of you coming in. I will have a sip of this wine. This will be the only glass for the rest of the evening. But we're going to begin here in the garden. I think but we can do several hours of this in the garden, because the nights seem to be getting lighter, even lighter than they normally are. So it's a nice thing. I don't know when we reach the longest day of the year, but I don't think we have yet. So it will continue to get lighter, and now the seagulls have thankfully quietened down. They've obviously gone to fight elsewhere. The local beach is cordoned off, because there is some problem with the water in the sea, so nobody goes to the beach here. So the neighbour's complaining because she can't go swimming and doing her whatever she does on the beach. There we are. So right. Can I talk about Anthony Bourdain? You listen to Sonia Poulton. I can't say I'm a fan of Sonia Poulton or whatever she's called. She was quite rude about something that we published, so I'm not a fan of her. So I don't pay attention to her. And obviously, heard about this situation between Ron Swanson and Sean Atwood, um, and obviously I've tried to ring Sean Atwood, but he hasn't replied, so I don't know what the problem is. But anyway, I wish both Ron Swanson and Sean Atwood very well. I have spoken to Ron Swanson, and I've spoke with my friend Victoria, who had her videos taken down. We talked about it yesterday. That wasn't a very fair thing to do, to take down the videos that she spent a lot of time participating in. I don't think that was correct, but it's his program and he can do what he wants. And then I wish him well with it all. I'm not like the Elon Musk, Donald Trump spat, which we'll talk about in a bit. But there we go. So, right. Well, Mr. Lee Kicker points out it is the longest day of the year so far today. Is it? I've just been told that here is yet another bank holiday on Monday. They seem to have an awful lot of bank holidays here, so nothing will happen for the next 3 days. There'll be no Daily Mail on Monday. There'll be no Daily Telegraph, so there'll be no more newspapers for that. There we go. Right, yes, Lois says you feel very sorry for Ron because he put his video up and said he was very about his pay and he was very hurt. Well, it seems that the breakdown in that relationship is very similar to the breakdown in the relationship of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but without the money, obviously, and the power. So there we go. Right. Okay. Right. I won't read out that comment, but there we go. You have no gin in the house, as far as I know. Charlie Barton says, well, I wish I had some gin in the house because I could do with a gin and tonic right now, but I don't. So, and the local supermarket, the local shop does not sell anything other than Gordon's gin, which is undrinkable. It's the French Gordon's gin is even worse than the English Gordon's gin. So I don't like Gordon's gin. It's an appalling gin because it's 37.5%. It tastes weird. I've never liked it since it became 37.5%. It was fine when it was 40%, as an average everyday one. But the very best, if you can't get the ones I recommend, number 3 gin, Fisher's gin, Martin Miller's gin, Gilpin's gin, they are the best in my view, all 4 of those. If you can't get that, your everyday gin should be Beefeater. If you can't get, or Tanqueray, Beefeater or Tanqueray, but Beefeater in England is much cheaper, but Beefeater is the same price, just thereabouts here as Tanqueray, and Tanqueray is stronger, so obviously go for the Tanqueray if you're in France. But if you're in England, the Beefeater is substantially cheaper for some reason. So if you want a good everyday gin, always go to the Beefeater. It's rather like with vodka. Maurice, the man I worked with, for, and ran a company for, and was a director of everything, and he wasn't a director of anything in the UK. You know why? He's dead now, so I'm not libeling the man, and we did have a court case, but there we go. He always said if you can't buy Sky vodka in America, buy Absolute. So, you don't need to go for the fancy option for every day. You can have, never buy Grey Goose, for example. Grey Goose is just cheap liquid in an expensive looking bottle. It looks nice on the shelf and everybody thinks it's nice because they spend a lot of money on marketing. It's no better than Absolute or Sky. So, be careful in your marketing. What you marketing you fall for. That's my advice to you on booze. I am a bit of an expert on gin, and I know a little bit about vodka. Vodka should be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Obviously, my friend in Australia who launched Vodka O, which was made with weirdly whey, the dairy byproduct. His vodka, we got it into Waitrose because it was an affordable but good quality, and that's why Waitrose wanted it. Sadly, they pulled out of Britain because the Chinese market was better, and then they sold the company to Asahi Beer for a huge amount of money. So they made the right choice in pulling out of Britain because the taxation in Britain on alcohol is too high. So it doesn't make it attractive for people bringing products into the country. And Keir Starmer, you should do something about this because the alcohol business in Britain is huge. So, even though many people are turning to these non-alcoholic spirits, not anyone I know. Um, I think most of them are rather bad, but I think one or two of them are actually quite convincing. They are quite good things for many people who should be drinking such things. Um, the non-alcoholic wines, they have a way to go until they can actually get to something of quality. We're now at 97 of you, so we're nearly at a point where we can, I think, have a conversation. The little bird has come back. It's wandering around. Mini Thatcher is obviously a little lost. I don't know what it wants, but it's been given food, it's been given water. It should behave itself, but it's not behaving itself. Um, and I'm not going to keep running around after it. A spoilt child should be ignored. Um, I'm always of the view children should be seen and not heard. I am not a great fan of children. Everybody thinks I like children because I'm with people with children, I'm always very nice to the child, and the child likes chatting with me. We had some people here with a very wayward child, the grandchild, and when I went off to take the car to be fixed, this lady kindly took me out on a little tour, and she told the grandchild, and he wanted to come along because he enjoyed my company. Because I don't know, I just chatted with him, and she said, well, "No way, never. It's better that we have a bit of peace." She said, I need a bit of peace from him." But no, I don't have a problem with people having children, but I just think children should not be in restaurants and screaming and yelling. I think children should be quiet, really. There's a time and a place for children. If you're going to a smart restaurant, you don't want someone else's children, and that's why there's quite a few restaurants I know that I really like, and they say no children, no mobile phones, none of this and that, and that's, I think, a good thing. Because if you're paying huge prices to go to a very nice restaurant, do you really need little Tommy running up and down the aisle screaming and playing his xylophone or whatever he does? No, you don't. And it's the parents who are to blame because they don't control their children. My mother always said of Pizza Express, Nanny's Day Off restaurant. That's the place you go with your screaming brat. There we go. So that's my view on children and restaurants. Uh, there's a pub in Knightsbridge, which is opposite Ghislaine's old house. In fact, Kinnerton Street. He has some very weird rules. He's called Kevin Moran. He doesn't. He was called the Nag's Head, but he's renamed it Kevin Moran. I don't think it's a great name for a pub, but it's a bit. It was always the Nag's Head. Leave the name alone. Don't change the name, you silly man. But anyway, he was going to be a witness for Ghislaine, but he never showed up, and she wanted the trial delayed so he could show up. There was some problem. I don't know what the problem was. But he obviously changed his mind, and he probably made a good decision in changing his mind. Anyway, he doesn't allow people to sit with their coat on. He makes you take your coat off. He's very strange with his rules. Mobile phones are not allowed. No pictures, no this, no that. He's got more rules than you can imagine. He's worse than Mr. Weatherspoon, Tim Martin, who doesn't allow dogs. People with children can only have 2 drinks, etc., etc. He's got lots of rules, but some rules are a good idea. There are restaurants I know that say, look, if you're vegan, well, sorry, we don't cater for that. That's not our thing. We have a set menu. The little restaurants where they have a set menu, you get what you're given. If you don't like what's being given, then you can't come here, basically. That's their choice. I think they should have the right to do what they want. Even Mr. Tim Martin. I don't like the man, but he has the right to run his establishment the way he wishes to run it. So does Mr. Kevin Moran. But I do like these restaurants that say no children. I think that is a good idea for people who actually don't want to have the noise of that. If you want to take your children out on a Sunday lunch, that's a different matter. To some kind of pub, that's fine. But we don't need screaming children at every opportunity. Here it comes. Oh dear. I think it's trying to get inside. Oh dear. We may have a problem here. Where's it going? No. Oi. No, get. Oh, it's gone in the house. Oh dear. I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to do something about it. Sorry, I will be back. The naughty bird has gone in the house. I will be back in what? It's not. Right, go back through your hedge. Oh, right. I do apologise. The problem of having the door open is that the I didn't say you were ruining my program, but I should have done, shouldn't I? I said, Mark, Mini Thatcher, behave. You see, it's a bit like, and this is the problem of having a child in a restaurant. Just like this thing is like having a child. You have to feed it. You have to give it liquid. You have to keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't fall in the water. You've got to stop the cat eating it. In this case, you've got to stop. Like the McCanns who didn't pay for childcare. You've got to have someone to look after these things. So there we go. Anyway, the naughty little bird seems to think that it lives in the house now, because it's been through the house when it comes from the other side. It has to be taught the lesson of not going in there. In fact, I need a piece of cardboard to put against the door to stop it going in, because it can't get over anything, because it can't fly. So, yeah, Matthew the Birdman. People were asking what my nickname were. We were talking about with the people who I met. We were talking about I think I've told this story before, of Steve the Lunch, which I did on Radio 4. Steve was a friend of mine, is a friend of mine, who's rather large, and he likes a good lunch, and he goes to some of the finest restaurants in the world, and he gambles, and he gets to eat in the best casinos. I've accompanied him on some amazing meals, and he loves lunch, and he loves good wine. He's a proper gourmand, and he's known as Steve the Lunch because Steve goes to the lunch to plan the next lunch, and this man I was talking to and his wife, who I've met a number of times, they found this quite hilarious. But I did that for BBC Saturday Live. I think that was one of their little snippets we did on there, which was quite fun. So yes, but this naughty little bird is it's getting a little bit out of control. It should stay in the place where it's safe, which is in the other garden. It's got plenty of food, plenty of water. It's got plenty of shelter. It's got all the lawn. It's got trees to shelter under. It's got everything. It would be better off staying where it's safe. But it goes wandering around, and this German might just kick it in the water if it's not careful. So she doesn't want it anywhere near her carpet, her outdoor carpet. So there we go. So the little bird probably will end up in trouble if it's not careful. But it can't go in the house. It's got to be taught not to go in the house, because it'll make such a mess. In Whitstable, where a friend of mine used to live, one of his neighbours, who was a little eccentric, I will say, but a nice man, he found a seagull with a broken wing on the beach, and he took it home, and he had a dog, and he lived in a flat. It was not a big flat, but it did have a balcony. And he let this thing live there, and he called it Steven Seagal, which is what they all call it, predictably. I didn't call it Steven Seagal because everybody else does. And this man, the mess in his flat. I went round there once for a drink with my friend when we were invited, and we both said, never again, we're not going here. The smell was appalling, because the mess they make they're very dirty things with the mess they leave behind. And you can't really train the bird, so it's not the bird's fault. And then the dog literally pulled the seagull literally pulled the dog's eye out. So, and he still kept the seagull and the dog. So the one-eyed dog and the wingless seagull. It's a bit like having Heather Mills around and Gordon Brown, isn't it? You wouldn't want, the one-legged tart and the one-eyed man who sold all our gold. But you really wouldn't want a one-legged, a one-eyed seagull. Sorry, one-eyed dog and a. Oh, it's back. Oh dear. Right, it's going. I'm going to have to find a stick just to guide it. I have a little cane here. You're not coming inside. Out. Oh dear. I can control it from here because I've got this cane. It'll keep it away. Just stay there. That's the best way of controlling it. If it comes being naughty again, it won't get near the house, so we won't be disturbed again on that front. Just have to keep an eye out because it's very sneaky. It sneaks out. I get it back through the little gate at the front on the dock, and then it somehow comes through the hedge, and somehow it's suddenly here. It's it's very agile. It's certainly not stupid, this little bird. So it's got the brains of Margaret, but there we are. So right, okay, yes. Sorry, there will be the occasional tapping of the cane. It's not going to be used violently, but it will just keep it away from coming in the door. So we don't want it coming in. It should go back to its little home. It's got plenty of food, so there we are. Right, okay. Have you any questions for me before we talk about our first topic? Any questions? Right. Anyway, now it's standing on the dock looking very confused. The person concerned is sitting indoors and being very well behaved. These sticks, this kind of thing, it is very long. It's just a piece of broken old wood. They float in when there's a storm because they all get washed down from the hills. So I pulled them out and I used them to. I use them as instead of having cane. It is kind of like cane. It's perfect for growing tomatoes. You can attach it and it does a good job. So you don't need to buy the canes. So I economized, and I'm quite good at finding things for free and all the rest of it, bargains. And I love a yellow sticker and all that. So there we go. So but this stick now is quite useful to guide mini Thatcher, isn't it? So it won't be getting in the house again. It seems to want to come in the house, but it cannot come in the house. The mess it's created outside. So there we are. But it's getting a bit more confident now. So that's why it's behaving like a naughty little spoilt child, isn't it? It's probably going through its teenage years of tempestuous behaviour, and rather like Kevin, the angry teenager. If it can't get what it wants, it keeps asking for it again and again and again, and then has a temper tantrum. There we go. Right, it wants its 15 minutes of fame. Well, it's definitely getting it, isn't it? So, have we any questions? Any questions? And it is Any Questions tonight on BBC Radio 4, but obviously I'm not listening to it. But I like any questions. A good radio show. There we are. And now I've been listening to some of the podcasts to do with the Archers today, so I enjoyed those. They were very good. They even had Matt Crawford brought back from his escapade when he was speaking at this Hay Festival remotely, I believe, and they were talking about Ruth Archer's affair, all sorts of things. What do I think about Musk's comments? We're going to come to that shortly, John Miller. Audrey, I'll come to that also. We can talk about all of that afterwards. So keep your questions and repeat them when we're ready. You like cross question with Ian Dale. I'm not a fan of Ian Dale, to be honest. I think he's a little bit of a self-publicist. He's got a book coming out about Margaret Thatcher, and he was banging on about it in one of the papers this week. He is a little strange, that man. I've met him a couple of times. Not a fan. And what am I drinking? Pellegrino, and I've had one small glass of wine here, but there we go. I've been on the Pellegrino all day. So Yes, and I've had lots of tea, Yorkshire tea, like tea used to be, as they say. Um, and I'm going to have an early night, and you know, I've been thinking about all sorts of things today, so it's been nice and quiet, which has been good for me, and that's a good thing. This poor man who died. It's been think. I didn't sleep very well last night thinking about that, so it's very unpleasant that the way he died and nobody knew about it, and it's very, very odd and very sad. And obviously, he was quickly cremated and nobody got to remember him, and I think that's a very sad state of affairs. But there we go. So right, okay. Any more questions on any other topics before we talk about the topics I've mentioned in the little thing? And please sign the petition if you haven't already on the Sloths. The link is in, as they say on the other channel, Sean Atwood. The link is in the description box. See, there you are. I've learned something. The bird has now wandered off in another direction, so I don't think it'll be coming back for a while. It'll probably go and get lost, and it'll probably try and come in the front door because it's done that earlier. So it definitely knows how to get around, and it definitely knows where to come back to when it wants some food. So there we go. Have I seen Megan's bump on YouTube? I've seen the photographs and some of the TikTok thing of her and Prince Harry making complete fools of themselves. What a ridiculous pair they are. My friend who is a bit of an expert on the topic thinks there was somebody else in another room, because obviously many people talk about the moon bump. I don't know whether I believe in that or not. I don't really think so, but it's a possibility. Anything's possible. Joanne Addis says, Mrs. Thatcher came into my dreams a couple of months ago. She gave me some advice. Well, Joanne, what was the advice that Margaret Thatcher gave you in your dream? I don't know. What do I think of Sean Atwood and Ron, the row? We've already talked about this, Susie Mack, but I think it's rather sad that people have such rows. It's not a very good thing to do, and I hope they make peace with one another. But I think given the comments that have been made and the legal whatever situation of whatever's going on here that's been talked about, I think it's unlikely, but you never know. People can make peace. People do make peace. It would be good if Israel and Palestine could make peace, but that's not likely for the moment either, is it? So, this is a much lesser scale of things, but people do tend to have a row, and most times the row festers and it never really ends. I've had rows with people and I don't speak to them ever again, and I've had rows with people and I forgive and forget, and they forgive and forget, and it's probably 50-50 in most rows because that's how it is. So let's be honest. Yes. Lynn says it was dirty dancing whilst the mother is in the other room giving birth. Paris Hilton has done it and the Kardashians have done it. Well, we don't know. I cannot possibly comment, but some might say, that's in reverse. It should have been the other way around, but there we are. Right. Okay. Well, right. Okay. Well, my sloth petition, when I looked a few minutes before we started, had reached 1,020 signatures. So thank you to all of you who took it over 1,000. That was very, very kind of you. The petition, let's see if I can paste the link on this French keyboard. I guess it still works. There it is again. Please, if you haven't already, sign the petition. There's 133 of you here, so I'm sure some of you haven't. Some of you are new to this. Sloths should not be kept as pets in the United Kingdom. They should not be used as the playthings of the likes of Tamara Eccleston's spoilt little brats equally. And it's time to ban the keeping of sloths as pets. So now we're at 1,000. If once it gets bigger and bigger, this change, from my experience, tends to spread quicker because they tend to promote things that are going faster. So I think it would be a good thing if you could help this solitary creature be kept where it belongs in the in the rainforest. That's where it belongs. It doesn't want to be touched by Tamara Eccleston's children in a mansion in Kensington. Um, Mr. Lee Kicker signed it and got some Russian friends to sign it too. Don't know if they did it or not. Well, the more signatures, the merrier. So please sign and share. And if you feel able, you can give some promotional thing to it, because I don't know how it works. I find the system of this change very complicated. Some of the people who have signed it have found that I find they're not actually on the list of signatories. So you have to click all the stages. So there we go. Anyway, I won't bang on about it anymore, but I will bring it up again later. Che says, I'm a sloth and I'm nobody's pet. Yes, I've signed it, says FM. Thank you. Vazi Naidu says, sloths must be left in their own plots. Miss Marple says you have to confirm it with an email. Yes, you do have to do that. But then they ask you to do all sorts of other things. And most people probably don't do those other things, and they skip that. And then they don't seem to appear on my list in some cases. So, and they are people we've, checked on and to see whether they could do it. And they've checked, they think they've done all the process. But it's a very odd system, I will say. It's not. It's designed for them to make money, of course. So, that's why they have it in that manner, because you have to go through all their advertising and all the rest of it and whatever else is going on. And they send you all these other things. And obviously, many people don't want that, which puts everybody off. So that is a problem, I suppose, with that system. But, it's a system that worked for me with the people who were having the goat slaying club, the Capriolis club, and it got them banned from 2 restaurants. So I won that thing with less than 100 signatures on both. I won both of those, so I declared victory, as they say. Right, okay, so that's the sloths. Now the next topic is the knighthood awarded, which will be awarded for the King's birthday in the next 24 hours, to David Beckham. So David Beckham, OBE, will become Sir David Beckham. And of course, that wife of his, the one with the miserable face, who is not a very pleasant woman, will become Lady Beckham. So it'll be living La Vida Loca for this weekend for the Beckhams. Now that they can go to a restaurant, they can call up a restaurant and say, Sir David and Lady Beckham, yes, we want a table. Well, they won't do it themselves. Obviously, they've got lots of staff, but they will. They like to lord it over people. Well, she likes to lord it. I think he's probably quite down to earth, but God only knows what's going on with their situation. But we'll come to that. So the Beckhams, in 2003, when they were given the OBE, were making some kind of reality program, and she said that she wanted a title herself in the program. Basically, David said, "I'm going to make you call me it," of the OBE. Grinning Victoria responded, "When you become a sir," this was not what they were awarded, "and I'm a lady, I'll make everyone call me it, even you." David, laughing awkwardly, said, "We'll see." These two are a little bit much, and it's ridiculous that he is being awarded this, given what went on with his tax affairs. It's rather like with Jimmy Savile. It took 13 times to get him his title. David Beckham has been out begging for a title for years, clearly, and this is why they've been, giving things to the supporting the royal family and all the rest of it. She is too much, absolutely too much. What do you think, viewers? Cheryl Betts says David Beckham is a brown noser. There we are. I think it's more that he's told what to do by his ridiculous wife. So I'm just moving this screen because obviously since I sat down again. It's all moved around. So there we go. Um, at least he queued up to see the Queen, unlike Holly and Phil. Well, you could say that, but you could also say, wasn't that public relations or part of the little plan to get this? Um, being slightly cynical, but he did have the courtesy to do that, and fair enough. And he stood with the public, and he did it properly. If I'd been in London, I would have queued up myself, but I wasn't in London, so I couldn't. But there we go. Who would I have as an ambassador? You mean the Beckhams as an ambassador? I don't think so. No, not. I don't think David Beckham would make a very good ambassador. I don't think he's quite got the technical ability to do that. He was very good as a footballer. Clearly, he was very good at having the odd interesting relationship, such as Rebecca Luce, allegedly. Lady Posh. I don't think she'd like to be called that. Just as Carol Bamford likes to be called Carol Bamford, not Lady Bamford. She likes to be considered in her own right, so she's quite the opposite. Tina Green, the only time I've ever met Tina Green, she said, "You will call me Lady Tina." I said, "I won't call you Lady Tina because it's not your title, is it?" I said, "I'll call you Lady Green." And she went mad. She's not a very nice lady, is Lady Green. But Lady Green, of course, her and her husband, what did they do to those poor BHS pensioners? Just as bad as, plenty of others like Maxwell. But all those stores closed and everything ruined. And there they are living on Lionheart in Monaco, their yacht. And he's still Sir Philip Green. He should have been stripped of his title. He's one who deserves the title to be taken away. They took away the honours given to Rolf Harris, deservedly. People like that, they don't deserve to be honoured. If you do something bad, take the title away, take the award of the honour away. In some cases, it does happen. In others, it did not. So, thank God they didn't give an award to Sir Captain Tom's daughter, because she's another one. But Michelle Moan, she needs to be thrown out of the House of Lords. It's a different matter to honours, but she should not be in the House of Lords. She's a disgrace. The PPE thief needs to go. And I was speaking with these people earlier about Michelle Moan, awful woman. And absolutely ghastly. Should never have been put there in the first place, nor should Karen Brady. She shouldn't be there for other reasons. An associate of the dildo flogger, the nasty Sullivans. And the Sullivans have lost their care home business because there've been all sorts of investigations. My source on Twitter has been on to me on that. I can't go into all the details today, but I will talk about that another day. This Ampika Pixton, who's marrying Sullivan, dreadful. These people are unfit for what they do. They're terrible, and they get all the attention in the world. And with the case of Moan and Brady, Lazy Brady, as I call her, David Cameron, thank you very much. Cameron, shame on you. You were a shameful person in who you awarded honours to. Boris Johnson, again, shameful honours, absolutely shameful. No, there's a lot of bad people who get awarded all sorts of honours, but David Beckham, it's slightly different because, this is the King's birthday list. So what he's being awarded for, we don't know. Is it his philanthropy or is it his football? Or is it both? I suppose it will be both. But they've somehow managed to push it through. But what about with his tax situation? Anyone else would be punished. They didn't give an award to Lorraine Kelly, and she had a tax situation. And she's a lovely lady, but, people do make mistakes. And you can say he made a mistake, but it's all to do with advice, perhaps. But I think you know what's going on when you make lots of money and you're able to make lots more money. So you don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that one. Look at what happened to poor old Martha Stewart. She did a few stocks and shares. She ended up in the clink in America. And, I had dinner with her when she came out of the clink on a TV show in America. And really, I think there are people worse than Martha Stewart to punish. Yes, she was stupid, but she wasn't like Leona Helmsley, who said taxes are only for the little people, and she deserved to go to prison because they called her out and name and shame. And what a nasty piece of work Leona Helmsley was. Great friend of Donald Trump. So there we go. Anyway, what do you think of David Beckham being awarded a knighthood, allegedly? It could be a complete red herring story, but I think it's actually happening because the way it's being reported is it's as if they know already, so they already have been briefed. Right. Right. You're talking about Simon Cowell. Well, there we go. That's slightly different. Right. You're more interested in Simon Cowell and how he's melted. Miss Marple says Beckham has done quite a lot for charity, helping UNICEF for many years. He's helping children. I'm okay with it. Matt Grant says, I don't have a problem with it. He has done a lot for charity. He helped getting the Olympics. Okay. Williams Evans says, Martha lost a lot of weight in prison. Martha Stewart is actually a very, very talented lady who came from a trailer park, and she's made a huge success of life. And I did enjoy chatting with her the one time I've ever met her on a TV set. It was a TV dinner, basically, but filmed on a TV set with Jack Papan cooking for us, the chef to 8 presidents. And he's still going. Maybe it's more than 8 now. But it was a fascinating evening because I didn't know much about her. I didn't know who I'd be sat next to. I didn't even know who was going to be there. It was just a wonderful little dinner, and he cooked us some fabulous food. And somewhere in my storage vault, I have his book that he gave me. And him and Julia Child and people like Keith Floyd's great chefs and cooks from a different generation. And my friend Rex was with the wonderful Anthony Worrell Thompson. Okay, he got caught being a bit naughty once, and he's a bit, like Richard Madeley in that regard. But he's been a wonderful supporter of mine over the years as Anthony, and people, all these old chefs are so much better than the new ones because they were a bit more fun. There we go. So that's just an aside. Okay, you like Jamie Oliver? Yes. Yes, Anthony was involved with cheese. Yes, there was a thing with cheese. Yes, and the Tesco. There we go. We won't go into that further. Chris says Alex Belfield will be back soon. Will he be a new man? Alex Belfield should be cancelled. He doesn't deserve to come back. Alex Belfield is a thoroughly nasty piece of toe rag, and he deserved to go to prison. And his little mate Katie Hopkins and him will probably resume their little stage shows. But no, I will not be listening, or watching, or whatever form it comes in. So no, thank you. I seem to associate with lots of convicts. Well, I think people from all walks of life do bad things. I was listening to a podcast today about the convicts, the bad people in the Archers. So obviously there was Rob Titchener, who did bad things to his wife and got sent to prison. The Free Helen campaign. There was obviously Clive Horrobin, the village horror. Horrobin was the perfect name for him. He burnt down the police station house as it then was. He robbed the shop at gunpoint and caused a heart attack of Jack Woolley. He stole things. He got his sister put in prison for helping him, or all the rest of it. Poor old Susan was put in prison, and it was very interesting. But then there was the small scale ones like the poachers and all the rest of it. Look, crime reaches all levels of society. So my old friend Antalya Norcane, who was the daughter of Lord Brocket, he buried his Ferraris in his garden and stupidly then he had an affair, so his wife told the insurance company and he got put in prison. So Lord Brocket, he went to prison. Jeffrey Archer, who he told lies and perjured himself, basically, and then he fell out with the person who'd helped him. So, crime touches all levels of society. It's not just the heroin addicts on the street and the deranged lunatic who steals a car and because the keys are left in it or whatever. Um, I have a friend who's done that, who is now in a mental asylum, and he comes from a very good family, but he lost the plot on drugs, and he saw a Range Rover with the door open, so he just took it and drove down the M4 from Sloane Avenue, and there was a police chase, and he got put in a mental asylum, and then well, now he's in there for another reason, but that's another matter. But anyway, I won't name him. But he's actually a lovely person, and I hope he's getting better. So there we go. Did I know that Shula and Brian are married in real life? I think we've had that in a quiz, or I've discussed it before. And of course, the person who plays Tom Archer in the program is the real life son of the person who plays Tony Archer. So there's quite a few ongoing family situations in the Archers. I don't know how many there are in other kind of soap operas, but I don't really know much about other soap operas. But there we go. You think that Lord Lucan was a criminal? Well, he certainly had all sorts of problems with gambling and all sorts of other things, but his wife wasn't exactly Miss Innocent either. She was quite an unpleasant lady. I can say that his son is a delightful man, and my friend who's married to him, the new lady Lucan, is a lovely, lovely lady, Danish, and she runs a clothing business, and she's involved in shooting, not shooting people, but she comes from a field sports family, and she's a delightful, fun, bubbly lady and vivacious, and I miss her company, so I send them my best. I don't think they'll be listening because I think they've got better things to be doing. Right. Okay. Right. I don't think we need all these jokes, but well, good for you. You're having fun together. So whatever you want to do. Yes. Right. Do I know Lady Colin Campbell? I've only ever been introduced to Lady Colin Campbell once, and one of her sons, the adopted children from Russia, and we had a perfectly pleasant conversation, but it wasn't that long. And but she's got some interesting views about Meghan. She's had various views about other matters. So I don't really know. I don't really follow her stories. Many of my friends are very good friends with her, but I don't know of her very well. So Miss Marple says she's very well informed. She announced the Queen's death at exactly the time it happened before it was announced. But well, I think there were probably many rumors swirling around, and perhaps she picked up upon them. I wouldn't say everything she comes out with is exactly sensible, and she is quite acerbic about some of the things she says. Aren't we all? But if you're going to have an opinion, there's no point. If you don't cause offence by what you're saying in the media, you're simply in public relations, and I'm definitely not in the business of public relations. This is why 50% of what I say, some of you, 50% of you don't like it. So there we go. Anyway, the stick has not had to be brought out. It seems to have run away again. It'll no doubt be back when it wants something. So Miss Minnie Thatcher has obviously gone on a little jaunt. So we're safe for the moment from that. Yes, the stick hasn't been used to do anything other than guide the bird from going back into the house. It doesn't get near it because it won't. It's quite cautious about what it goes near because it's been attacked by all these seagulls. So there we go. But but we have to guide it. It went into where it needs to go. So it's just a guiding stick, really. It's gone to shake the tail feather. I don't know if it's probably gone off on a little mission, and it didn't go. It went the right way. It went away from the Germanic person, because if it goes near there, it'll be kicked in the sea, which is not a thing that we want to happen. So there we go. Right. Okay. Well, we'll move along from David Beckham. And have you any more questions on David Beckham? No more questions on David Beckham. I thought you'd have lots of questions about David Beckham, but call the stick Dennis. Okay, the stick is now called Dennis. Dennis the stick. Dennis used to get quite a lot of stick from Margaret, but Dennis preferred to have a gin, and Margaret preferred to have a whiskey. So it's like Jack Sprat. Jack Sprat ate no fat. His wife could eat no lean. So between the two of them, they kept the platter clean. So there we go. I can't remember how the rest of that goes, but there you go. So that was a similar sort of setting, wasn't it? Okay, yes. The seagulls would make a children's book, and the cat. Yes, the cat. Oh dear. Well, I'm too busy with all my quiz books, and here's the one from yesterday. I'm not giving anything away there, so you're not getting anywhere with the ones that are to come. Yes. Right. Anyway, Chris thinks Sir David is handsome. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, he's certainly got a lot of tattoos, as does his son, and they've got all that war going on, and I think it's very boring to hear their little family war. Familial wars are a little bit boring. They're all making money out of it, because it just brings more attention to whatever they're doing. So they might be up to this. Could all be a smoke screen, and then they could all be just playing the game, couldn't they? According to my thing that's just come up, but the royal fans even have said Meghan has been slammed by her royal fans. It's cringe and embarrassing. So there we go. Yes, the Blue Nomad says, "What war?" Well, one of the Beckham children, I forget his name even. How uninterested in it I am. Brooklyn, I think. Is it Brooklyn Beckham? I think it's him. He married this girl called Nicola Peltz, who's the daughter of an American billionaire who's they own, amongst other things, Coleman's mustard and all sorts of things, food related. So no wonder this little brat launched his own spicy sauce line. But they're claiming that there's a family rift, and this boy didn't attend any of the 50th birthday parties, because of course Beckham's getting a knighthood for his 50th birthday, so that's King Charles's gift to him, I suppose. You're 50 years old, you can have a knighthood. So there we are. So there's a family rift, and supposedly it's kind of like Meghan and Harry and everything else. They're saying that the new wife is taking them away from the family. Him away from the family. So Anne of Cleves says Nicola is the narcissist. She's driving Brooklyn's behavior. Well, we don't know that, but they do seem to be like creating their own brand, and it's all controlled by her. But who knows? I don't know anything about them. Never met them. I have encountered Lady Beckham, as she used to be, if that's true, in a shop once, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience. She was very badly behaved, but and it did end up in the newspapers. But anyway, we won't go there because it's boring. But it was very quick. But I've never actually spent any time in any of their company. I don't know them, or they're not really in my world. So they have been incredibly successful, these Beckhams, but they do seem to be. She does seem to be a very miserable-looking woman, and there's something very sour about her, in my view. But She might be a perfectly lovely person in reality. It may be just an act, but I do imagine that this little family war could also be a bit of an act, because frankly, it's all a bit ridiculous, isn't it? So there we go. Right. Yes, the Beckham boy has a huge tattoo across his chest, Mummy's boy. I think it's Mama's boy, in fact. I saw it in the newspaper. David Beckham was friendly with Michael Barrymore, says Paulie. I don't know whether that's true or not. But anyone who's friendly with Michael Barrymore needs their head examining. He is a dreadful person, but we won't go for that. Right. Okay, so we'll move along. What about Elon Musk? What do you think of the Elon Musk Trump tiff? Is this a tiff that they both engineered to try and get themselves more publicity and distract from other matters that are going on with the American government? Or is this a genuine tiff, or is this a all-out war? I always predicted that the two of them would never be able to last together. I'm surprised they lasted this long, because they're both egos. One is the richest man in the world, and one is the most powerful man in the world. So the two of them were never naturally going to get along forever. Tesla has lost 30 billion. He's lost 30 billion on his Tesla in the time since this row started. He's getting the kick him out, deport him messages from Republicans. Donald wants his big, beautiful bill. Donald wants to give the Tesla back. It's all rather ridiculous, isn't it? The Blue Nomad says, aren't the oil barons richer? No, because this man has overtaken them all. It's amazing how he's done it with these various companies. But he is a little bit of an obsessive, and he's got his little social media thing, Twitter, well, X as it's now called, and Donald Trump has his social media, Truth Social. So they're like they're two big boys who are in their nappies fighting with their two little toys, aren't they? Really. One's got the nuclear button. One said you can't send the other ones to space, and one's brought up Epstein, and the other one said the man's crazy. They are like little children in the playground, aren't they? Really. Miss Marple says, I hate those Tesla Cybertrucks. I saw over 20 when I was in LA a couple of weeks ago. I think they are the most ugly looking things ever. They look ridiculous, and I'm sure they're not very, very comfortable by the look of them. Yes. Twitter was 50% censored, says the Blue Nomad. X is 80% censored. I liked Twitter, or X as it is, because I get lots of useful information from it. But I will say that the quality of it has hugely declined, because you don't get as much as the left opinion, because they all fled to go on whatever other thing was, which I gave up on. I forget what its name was even. It was so boring. Threads. I still have it on my phone and it comes up, but it's just dull. It's just, there's nothing going on there. No information, absolutely useless, just boring, absolutely dull. Yes. Lois says Elon and Bezos go back and forth for the world's richest. Well, these rich lists are ridiculous. I was with somebody the other day who's on one of those rich lists, and they said to me, the figure is nonsense. Most people who are on these lists, they don't understand how these numbers are created. The numbers are silly because they don't add up. So with the case, there we are. It's it's just nonsense. Sorry, the computer was just trying to do something about the power, but it's got plenty of power. So if it does run out of power, I'll have to move indoors. So there we go. I don't know how much battery it has. I don't know. It's got a little battery, so we'll keep going for the moment. Right. Okay. So yeah, that's the thing on that. And YouTube went down in the US at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So when we've had all these issues with this YouTube, perhaps it isn't my computer or your computer or anyone's computer. There are a lot of hackers going on at the moment, and one of my friends, as well as something happened with somebody else's card. Their card got swallowed by a machine as well. So the machine went black, and they're still trying to get their money back because they were trying to take out cash and they didn't give the card back or the cash, but it showed up as having taken it out. So that's something very strange, and they've gone back to England and they're not very happy about it. So anyway, you can get problems with all sorts of technology. Look what happened to Marks and Spencers. It's not a very good thing. So there we go. Anyway, so anyway, the next stage is, would you like to have a quiz? It would be good to have a quiz, but I think I might have to do the quiz indoors because the power is running out. So I will pause for a moment and we will come back in a separate video with the quiz. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I will come back shortly. Okay. Bye bye.